Hello and welcome back to KGC Engineering and to our mini project. Now, I've not done a video for the last day that I actually worked on this because I was just grinding down the welds from the right hand side works. Now the outer wing is just placed on at the moment, it's not actually held in place because I want to get the scuttle panel in underneath at the front of the windscreen. I want to get that in first before I put that wing on. So today's plan is going to be to do exactly the same to the left hand side. So we're going to get the old wing off, get the old inner wing off, and we'll see if we can get the new one on today. If not, it'll certainly be tomorrow. So we'll see how we go. So I've got a new tool to try out as well, and nothing more to say than I'll do quite a few time lapses again, and I'm just going to get stuck into it. So before we actually get stuck into doing the other side, I thought I'd quickly show you what I've done on the right hand side. So as you can see, I've got all the welds all ground down here, and thank you for everybody for the tips to remove these stickers. I'll certainly get some brake cleaner or something on there and probably do them all in one go once I got it on the rotator, and obviously we'll get some paint and seam sealer over all these joints at that point as well. But as well as that, I've also temporarily dropped the door in place. It's not actually held in place correctly. I've not bolted it in. I've just made sure that it still fits in the hole, which we can see that it does. So that's always a good sign. When you're putting panels in, is to see that, okay, does everything else fit that was in there before. So as I said, today's video is mainly going to be cutting out this wing and the inner wing behind it. So I'll turn the time lapse on and we'll see about getting this outer wing off. Okay then, so I've taken the outer wing off, which as you saw quickly zipped off with the grinder, and it's obviously revealed the inner wing and the actual state of it. I mean, this is the top spring hanger bracket, and as you can see, all the way around it is completely corroded. There's just nothing left there at all. So I need to obviously get that off. I need to get this bracket off as well. We can also see where I had to cut bits out when I was taking the car apart to get some components off, because this was just so clearly just corroded completely inside. There's not very much left of it, so it is a good idea that we're completely replacing this whole inner wing. This is beyond sort of you couldn't patch this up sensibly and it last, because it's all just going to be in there. So obviously I've got to, like I say, get these couple of brackets off. We're probably just going to end up scrapping this one anyway, because it's just I should not be able to put my fingers through there. So that is pretty bad. But this is one of the things that you will generally find with old cars, is that if like this is a UK car, so we drive on the left hand side of the road, and typically the left hand side of the car I've usually found is what I class as the wet side. So what I mean by that is that it's the side which goes through all the puddles, because all the drains for the road are on this side. So this goes, the left hand side is generally the worst side, because it just gets all the wet, a lot more wet than the other side does. And likewise, when I've looked at left-hand drive cars from Europe or America, again, the right-hand side of the car is the wet side, so it corrodes worse on that side. So it is one of those things to sort of watch out for, is that generally you'll end up with a lot more rust on the left-hand side than you will on the right. So I'll zip this back onto time-lapse and see if we can extract at least this bracket. I think I'll probably just end up cutting this one off, because there's just no point in even attempting to save it, because it's just beyond repair. And we can then have a look and see how we're going to get this, the rest of this inner wing out. Well, I managed to get it off without having to, get the grinder on it, which is obviously a bonus in some ways. But it's just to sort of demonstrate that, for the price of a new one of these, which is about 20 quid, you just get a new one, because I could spend, maybe 10-15 minutes making up, a new plate on the back, and, cutting that out and welding it in. I think there's no point, for the sake of 20 quid, that can just go in the scrap, because it's not going to be of any particular use, apart from when we obviously putting the new wing back on. I'll use it for lining up for where it goes. So obviously we've got a lot of rust that has occurred here. We need to, we're going to take the wing off. So my plan now is to cut the remaining part of the outer wing off here, and get rid of that, and I can really just then get in to all this area here. Now, for most of it, I think I'm going to have to actually use the grinder to again cut a lot of these bits out, getting rid of these big chunky bits. But for possibly from here on inwards, I'll be able to hopefully use my new spot welder cutter. Now, if you watched, I think it was either the last video, the previous video to this one, or the one before that, I mentioned that I'd come across these, and I've managed to get one. So I'm going to give it a go and see what happens with that. But for speed and ease of getting this awful bit of tin work off, I'm just going to whiz it with a grinder in my usual fashion, and then I've got a nice clean bit I can work on, and hopefully show you how this spot weld cutter / drill bit thing, new tool, works. So I'll see you in a little bit. Right, so as you can see, I've got the main front portion of the inner wing off there, and I've also tidied up around here. I need to push this out yet, which I'll probably do from that, because that's where the bolt snapped for the hanger bracket. Now, you might wonder why they're saying I'm going to put the outer wings on after I've put the this top scuttle panel in, and it's because of this, because this bit here is actually part of the scuttle panel. So as you can see there, the scuttle panel goes in behind the inner wing, the outer wing, sorry. So there'd be so to get it in correctly, I need to get scuttle panel in first, and then the outer wing will then sit on the top of it. So what I need to do now is, as obviously I've cut the outer wing off there as well, is actually cut into this scuttle panel so I can get to the rest of the inner wing to really make sure I get all of it out, just like I did the other side. So I need to cut along here and around here carefully to get that out, because obviously we're going to be replacing this piece anyway. So I'll quickly nip that out, and then we can have a look at getting the new tool out and having a go at getting the rest of the inner wing out. Right then, so I've got rid of that bit of scuttle panel up here, and I've ground back the remaining parts of the spot welds which are holding it onto the inner wing part. Now I'll probably end up just cutting that bit out with the grinder, to be fair. But I'll do that once I've had a go around here with my new tool. So the tool I've got is what's called a spot welder cutter, and this is what it looks like. And essentially we've got a pin in the top here which does depresses into the shaft here, and we've got basically a really small hole cutter on the end of it. So what you need to do with it, from what I understand, is you find where your spot welds are, and I can see a couple here, so just mark them out a bit with the old marker pen, and basically you get a centre punch and you look right into the middle of where the weld is and give it a really good mark with the centre punch, because that's where that pin here is going to sit in there. So that'll sit on the mark, and then as you push in with the drill and it spins, it should, in theory, cut around the centre of the spot weld. So I'm going to mark a good few of them up and have a little go. Well, on the whole, I think it works pretty well as a tool. So we've got certainly a good number of them. But one thing I did notice was that it did occasionally have a tendency to wander. So I possibly needed a bigger centre punch mark. So a really good centre punch mark should help hold it in the place where you want it to, otherwise it can sort of have a tendency to want to jump and spin around, go all over the place. You see a couple of marks there. The other problem I found was that because this is currently on a pallet with some wheels on, is that the whole car can sort of move. So really I could do with blocking the wheels out so that it can't do that, so that I can get some real effort behind it. So when I'm pushing it, I'm not pushing the whole car, and it's I'm not trying to fight it. It'll make the job a lot easier. But on the whole, it does seem to have actually opened things up a bit. I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to pull some of this off a bit now, a bit easier. It may be that I need to do a little bit more cutting with it. Hopefully, because it definitely has made life easier, and you can hear it, just the last bits of metal giving up with it. Yeah, it's one of those that I certainly think it will go. That perhaps with, like I say, with a bit of practice and with cutting the blocking the car up a bit, that'll probably come out a lot easier. But you can see that it has cut through quite nicely where it has done, and it's made it a lot easier because we've got less damage on the surface that we're going to inevitably be welding back to. So once I've actually got this panel off, so I'm going to have to recut some of these, then all it needs is basically literally where the spot welds are, is those little bits grinding down. Because it's only a small area, it's not going to take as long to do, which is always a bonus. So I think on the whole, if you are looking at getting into doing restoration, or you are going to do a lot of restoration work, then it's definitely a worthwhile tool to get. And I really wish I'd heard about them years ago when I first started out. It would have saved me a lot of time and effort, because that's not taking very long at all, and that's that for me as a tool is a bit of a game changer now. I can get through this a heck of a lot faster. Where I can see the spot welds, I mean, there will be obvious areas like up here where it's just not practical to use it, so we'll just get the grinder out and cut it with the grinder. But areas where it's still fairly reasonable, like around here, then I think absolutely it's the tool for the job. So I'll give these a couple more cuts. I may just come in with the grinder again, and we'll get all this off fairly quickly, I think. Right, so as you can see, I've now got pretty much all that panel off. There is a few bits still to do around here and the bottom. The reason I've not used the spot weld cutter down here is because it also goes underneath. The panel it's spot welded across there and underneath, so it wasn't really going to be effective for there. So I'll just attack that with the grinder, and that'll all come away no problem as normal. Obviously, we need to replace the same as we did the other side with the inner boxing plate, so new ones there, so we can start lining up for that. But obviously, got a little bit more cutting out to do, but it's promising going forwards. This, and I think by the end of the day, I think I'd certainly like to have at least the boxing panel properly welded in, but we'll just see how we go. So time for a spot of lunch, and then it's back to grinding all this out and so on. So I'll see you in a bit. Right, well, I've now got pretty much all of the old interior wing out now, and there's just a little bit left here on the A-post, and a little bit down here which can just quickly cut through the floor. But before I go into cutting those final few bits out there, I really want to have a look at trying to get this boxing panel replaced, because this A-post isn't particularly strong. This one's actually a lot more corroded than the other side, so I want to sort of see how best I can get the new boxing piece in. I mean, obviously the old one is, well, what remains of the old one is still in place. So I think, unfortunately, I probably am going to have to do a little bit more cutting to be able to get to it. And then obviously I need to remember to do my measurements for the parcel shelf area to make sure that it stays in the right height, just like I did for the other side. So if you want to know more, see the other previous video where I went through that. So really we are getting close, because I prepped all the other bits as well now. So anywhere where we've got spaces that we're going to be welding to later on, they're all prepped and ready to go. Because I kind of like to do that as I go along, because then it saves me having one massive big grinding session afterwards, which can get really, really annoying, and it's not really good for your joints and muscles and things to be constantly grinding away for hours and hours. If you can do it a bit at a time and have a break. It's a lot better, a lot healthier for you. So I'm going to have a look and see what other bits I need to actually get cut out to get this boxing panel in, and hopefully, like I say, I'd like to try and get that in today. So let's keep on going. Right, so I've now got the new boxing panel. It's just clamped in at the moment, and I've marked out and measured up where everything needs to be, so I know where, so it goes back in the right place, to give it some, so that's how it's right. Obviously, the A-post is quite bad, and to give us a bit of strength going forwards, before I get round to replacing the A-post and the top of the sills, all I'm going to do is add an extra couple of small tack welds in on the joints here, literally just to help hold it in place, because we're going to take this out afterwards, so that, but we need to give it some strength to make sure it stays in the right place. And obviously I've still got a bit to take off there for the inner wing, so I can put the new inner wing in. Because if I don't do that, then there is a good chance that this whole gap could move. I have taken measurements anyway, so that I know that when I come to put the new piece in, I can measure it all up and make sure that it is all in the right place anyway. So there's no real worry of that. I just don't want it to move. And if it does move, it does move, because at the moment I've got nothing to brace to, so I can't brace the doorway in any particular way, because I need to get in and out, so I can't put anything across the door particularly. So it's quite a difficult one to do. So I'm going to take the boxing panel out, give it a clean up for where I need to, clamp it back in, weld it up, get our parcel shelf welded on there as well, which again will help a bit of strength across side to side, and then obviously I can then start looking at getting this the last bit of the front inner wing off, and then that may well be it on the actual body shell today, but I'll see how we go. I might see about looking how the other wing is going to fit. And that's my phone going off. Excuse me a moment. Right, now then, I've got the boxing panel back in, so it's time to crack open the welder and get it stuck in. Everything's lined up and all clamped in place where I want it, so I'm quite happy that it's going to go in the right place. So let's just get it in, and then we can look at actually getting these last few bits off. So get myself fairly comfortable. Here we go. Before I weld that one, I think I'll just double check the measurement, make sure it is right. It's easier to check it now than it will be when it's moved, if it has moved, which I don't think it has, and actually had dropped a tiny bit. There we go. So we can now make sure our parcel shelf is in the right place and get that welded in next. soon have this done. Look. Lovely. So that's on. So now all it remains is to just put a few tack welds across the join between the old A post and the boxing panel. Once that's in, like I say, we can sort those bits out afterwards. Oh, hey. Oh. We don't want anything more than that, really, to hold that panel on, because it is now going to have just made all that a lot stronger than it was. Because, like I say, when we get round to actually replacing the A posts and top sills, it'll be once we actually replace the floor. Because I was having a think the other day, because I know I was discussing this for the other side, and I think it must have been the last video that I did, and I got home and thought afterwards, no, that's not a good idea, because I've got nothing on this bottom edge to weld to, unless I do some more little tack welds like that, which, you know, I could do, but because we're going to be replacing the whole floor all the way through, I thought, well, I may as well keep what's there intact, because although it's a little bit rotten, rotten is a bit of an understatement in some ways, there is some strength and it's in the right place, whereas if I put a new piece in, it's going to be a little while before we're replacing the floors, and it could open up the whole car up to twisting, which obviously we don't want. You know, we want the car to stay as square as possible. So for now, they're going to stay like that, but they will be replaced once I've got the new floors in, because it'll just be going really nice then. I'll probably put them in at the same time, in fairness. So that's on there, and that is probably, well, apart from getting this bit off now, which is my next task, pretty much it for the body shell for today. So I'll get the last bits of the inner wing off, and then we can have a look and see if the new one is going to fit, which it should do. So we'll see. Well, that's all the old wing is now removed, so it's time to see whether our new one is actually going to fit in. I'm hoping that it will, obviously, but let's see what happens. Well, I'm pleased to say that the new inner wing fits in really rather well, which again is a good thing. Pretty much everything more or less lines up. There's probably a few bits that need a little bit of tweaking here and there, you know, a bit of an adjustment, but it's gone in, and it's gone in really nice as well. Like I say, there's just a couple of little bits perhaps around here just need a little bit of adjustment. Also, but, you know, it's there and it looks right, which is obviously the main thing. Now obviously I've got, you know, a number of clamps on there to hold it in place, and to be honest I'm going to just change this one here and just move it somewhere a little bit more suitable if I can. That's fine. Because what I want to do is just try and see if the top wing fits on. So whilst we've got it clamped up, if we place the new top wing in place, well, let's get it to sit on there a minute. You can actually see that, okay, it's not immediately a perfect fit on there, but with a bit of clever adjustments and so forth, it is going to go together. You know, we can see that, right, we've got something we can work with here. It's not going to go all crazy all over the place. It is going to get into the right place and going to be just fine. So I'm not panicking about that not fitting in immediately. So like I say, once we've got it welded in and things are pulled in to the right position, that it'll probably all come together quite nicely at the end. But again, in fact, it's actually gone better now. Now I've just had a little wiggle with it there. It's actually gone in a lot better already. So it is one of those that I've said it a few times. When we put in a number of panels together, if we can assemble it and see where the other panels match in, we can get a really good fit with things, so that things look right, you know, and as they ought to be and as they should be. So there's not going to be, I don't feel there's going to be any real reason to do any modification, or if there is, it's not going to be a massive modification to any other panels with this, which is really, really lucky. But again, it's one of the things that with the Minis, because they've rebuilt, you know, to make new body shells out of these panels, then, you know, really they ought to fit together pretty well anyway. So that's always, you know, to me, a good indication that this is going to go well together. So yeah. Right, well, that's it for today's video. Obviously the next job with this is going to be to get the this inner wing welded in. So obviously we've got to go through, mark it out, drill it, and then actually get it all clamped up, double check it with our top wing, and then actually get it all welded in properly. So that's definitely going to be the next video, which for me will be tomorrow's job. So anyway, I hope that you have enjoyed this video, and if you have, do please give us a good old thumbs up. Also make sure that you hit that subscribe button as well, so that you don't miss out the next video in this series or any of the other videos that I managed to get together to put out for you guys. So until next time, happy classic motoring.